Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the pre-Christmas episode of Garbage Time Takes. As much as we'd love to be a happy family sitting around the Christmas tree opening presents with the fire in the background, as per usual, we're missing a member of our podcast this week. Bob, great to have you back as always, but alas, our good friend Dennis Weaver nowhere to be found.
Yeah, Dennis, we wish him all the health in the world. He's claiming illness this week. We wish for speedy recovery. Tough to know with Dennis. I like to take him at face value, but the track record's been a little bit of shady. But we do love Dennis, so we're gonna assume he's telling the truth. But I do have to poke fun. It is part of the job description on this channel. So, um, special guest Dennis is gonna keep the title special guest for the time being until we can get a consistent performance record from him in appearances. But quick recovery, Dennis. Hope you're listening, and hope all is well.
Yeah, we did get a message earlier today from Dennis that read as follows. Well, unfortunately, I feel like death itself, so I may have to miss unfortunately. So, for those of you who took a good look at our thumbnail for this episode, that's where the inspiration comes from. But yes, we hope Dennis feels better. But, I mean, Bob, you soldiered through an episode of Comatose last week. Where's Dennis soldiering through a mild cold? I mean, where's
You
he at?
know, you know, I will say podcasting isn't necessarily the most physically demanding field of work.
Correct.
Um, you know, we do know that there was sickness going around his house. Uh, so hopefully, he didn't strike his voice from him, Derek, because we're gonna need him back in short order for next week's episode, or whenever we do record our next episode around the holiday season. But we're gonna need him back in short order. We're gonna need an explanation of what the heck happened here.
I mean, Bob, we were planning on, cracking some brewskis, opening some presents, really, really digging into the Christmas spirit, but Dennis ruined all those plans.
Now, I mean, Dennis, I'm not gonna show up for sponsorship purposes here, but I got a Coors Light right next to me,
Oh
and
no.
it was ready. It was supposed to be ready to roll, but you know, bah humbug from old Dennis Weaver.
Correct, correct. Good old Dennis Scrooge. Just foiling the plans, pouring cold water over our Christmas plans. Speaking of pouring cold water, Bob, this is the surprise topic I was telling you about before the show. We didn't touch on it last week, forgot to, but I'd like to this week. A few weeks ago, Bob, you made the prediction that Tony Finau would be the next to leave for Live Golf. Literally within the week, I don't know if you saw that, but literally within the week, he announced he was not and will not be leaving the Live Golf Tour. I mean, if you're out there, Tony, watching this, first of all, hello and thank you for joining into our shows every week. But
Oh
second of all,
no.
Bob, how serendipitous was that literally within a few days of your prediction, Tony Finau said he was in fact not leaving.
You know, that is about as bad as it gets right there for myself. Um, I was just trying to think of the Dennis Weaver description of types of golfers that tend to leave for the Live Golf Tour,
Correct.
and I thought that Tony would be that kind of description. So when I made that prediction, that was kind of my thought process. But apparently, Live Golf has moved up in the world because now they're just taking the best players that the PGA has to offer wholesale. They're skipping out on the washed up bums, as Dennis would say.
Correct.
I forget if we even talked about it last week, but um, Dennis crapping his pants at the news of John Rahm, of course, leaving the PGA Tour and now going to be acquiring the bag from
Correct.
the Saudis and the Live Golf Tour. Um, Dennis, I'm sure if you were just, you're already ill watching this, but I'm sure you just lost your lunch after having to hear that repeated again. But anyway, yeah, very serendipitous. And you got to take moments like this on the chin. I got to take responsibility for my take and my actions because I apparently couldn't have been more dead
I
wrong.
mean, it was a heck of a take. It was a heck of a take for it to be, I mean, just completely shot down out of the blue on a random Sunday.
You know, you win some, you lose some. But you know what? I've never one to back away, to deny, to be a denier, to be a you know Monday morning quarterback. So I'm owning up to it. I was wrong.
I mean, just I'll think of it this way, Bob. You were literally one word away from being correct. The difference between I will not be leaving and I will be leaving is one word. You were one word away, Bob.
I was, in the fact that there was even that player that I was talking about made an announcement on that topic
Correct. Correct.
like 2 days later or whatever. Nuts.
Correct. But yeah, that was I felt like that was something good to start with, get the juices flowing a little bit before we really blitz into the NFL stuff. Bob, the Lions are a single victory away from not only clinching a playoff berth, but the NFC North for the first time in franchise history and the first divisional title in exactly 30 years. Exactly 30 years. Bob.
Yeah, Derek, I've been hearing some malfeasance of reporting on this topic from different networks saying that, it's the first time that the Lions would have won the NFC North, since 30 years ago. You know, the Lions have never won this iteration of the NFC North, as I recall,
Correct.
or it wasn't called the North at
Correct. It
the
was the
time.
NFC Central at the time. So our last division champs was as the NFC Central. So it's not that we've never won a division, but we have
No,
never
correct.
won the
We've never won the
North.
North. We have
Correct.
never won the NFC North, and I was hearing people reporting that we had won the North 30 years ago. Well,
Ah,
that was wrong. That's just
correct.
incorrect. That's
Which is
erroneous.
unfortunate that that was even wrong.
Correct. Yeah, but I just had to mention that because I heard that from some different news sources, and I was like, that's wrong. Um, and when you've been so accustomed to losing, you want to make sure people are getting it right when they're
Correct.
talking about the last time your team was successful. Derek, it's a day that many Lions fans never thought they would see. When it's been 30 years, I mean, you think of people like your father, Derek. Think of people like your father. Um, in his lifetime, how many times he would have seen the Lions win a division. Um, you know
Not
that
many.
that not many, Derek. That's the long and short of it. Um, and we're one win away. And the fact is that we have the chance to nail in the coffin this week on our very own hands. We don't need to wait for anybody else to do it for us.
Correct.
We don't need to, um, hope and pray that the chips fall favorably. We have a couple of weeks to do it ourselves.
Correct.
And the good news is that for whatever reason it didn't get done this week. It's not over. We still have plenty of chance. However, I don't like that mindset. I think that's a loser's mindset. And I think that Dan Campbell's certainly in the locker room preaching that, this was our goal, and let's go take our goal. Let's go achieve our goal. Let's go fulfill our goal for the fans, for the city, Derek, for the city.
That's right, Bob. For me, you and me, Bob. For you and me,
The
dang it.
city, the city deserves this.
Bob, think about
I mean,
all
hoist
those
the banner.
times in the apartment after a loss wearing the brown paper bag.
Oh my gosh! I mean, for some background story, I mean, I know we have a lot of loyal fans here, but background story for people that may not get that reference. Obviously Derek, Dennis, and I, undergraduate roommates. Um, Class of 2021, Central Michigan University. Don't forget it. We do.
Fire up.
Um, the the running joke in our room was every single year the Lions would during our time in undergrad, the Lions had a consecutive run of last place NFC North finishes, unfortunately.
They
And
did.
it came to be so often that I got the idea to copy, some of the old famous Lion fans pictures of past with the brown paper bag and bring it back, but instead it had a caption on the back that said, uh, last place NFC North finishers.
Correct.
And then the next year I would have had to add third straight or fourth straight or whatever it was. Well, no longer. Free at last, Eric. Uh,
That's right.
it's time. It's time to freaking hoist the flag, Honolulu Blue, till we die.
That's right, Bob. I mean, here's the interesting thing, Bob. As it currently stands, three teams have clinched playoff berths: the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. The Lions,
It's shocking that we haven't.
correct. The Lions, Buccaneers, Vikings, and Rams all currently hold the 3 through 7, and then you've got the 7-7 Seahawks, 7-7 Saints, 6-8 Falcons, rounding out the top 10. Bob, if the Lions win out, I don't know if you're aware of this, but if the Lions win out, they hold their destiny for the 2 seed. Hold their destiny for the 2 seed with a matchup against the Cowboys coming up in D Town less than 10 days from now. Uh,
Ooh.
would be massive. We'd get the 7 seed, which very well could be a lot of teams. Could be the Saints, Seahawks, Vikings, or Rams. Uh, but there's still a chance, Bob, even for the number 1 overall seed.
That's what I'm talking about, Derek.
Still
That's
a
what I'm talking
chance
about.
for the number 1 overall seed, Bob, and I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't mind seeing Philadelphia in the NFC divisional playoffs coming off a bye week. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. Their defense is just as bad as ours, and their offense struggled to score against a rather mediocre Seahawks defense, Bob. We got in a shootout with them last year. An absolute shootout to the Super Bowl runner-ups. And this year they're just not as scary. They're just not as scary. So I'm just throwing that out there. I am putting my official take stamp down on the fact
Not
that
afraid.
I
Not afraid.
am not afraid of the Philadelphia Eagles. Not afraid, Bob. Not afraid.
Derek, tell me. I mean, tell me what is the atmosphere at the Reggio household going to be like when the boys and the Lions have to face off at Jerry World?
Yep.
I mean,
I'll be
this
at
is
home,
this is
Bob.
this is this is you're gonna be home.
Yep,
Will
I
you
will
be
be
home?
home for that one.
I mean, Derek, what's the atmosphere gonna be like here? I mean, we're talking 10-4, two 10-4 teams, I believe, at the moment.
Yep,
I
currently
mean,
both 10-4.
battling. I mean, the Cowboys, trying to prove to the world that they're not fraudulent,
Correct.
and the Lions ultimately trying to do the same thing.
To an extent, yes, I would agree.
I mean,
I
what is
think
tell me there's something on the line, Derek. Tell me there's lumber on the line. There's something. There's skin in the game here for the Reggio family
I
because
mean
this is about as high stakes as it gets, barring a actual NFC Championship matchup.
I think, Bob, the stakes are such that I don't have to hear the Cowboys fans in my family hooting and hollering all day and making me feel bad about a Lions loss. I think that in and of its own right would be more than enough for me. It's just because we all know it, Bob. Cowboys fans, smug, entitled, arrogant,
Sanctimonious.
sanctimonious, but they can't beat anyone on the road. So it's really a shame. It's really,
Dang
truly,
it!
truly, truly a shame that we have to go to Dallas where Jerry whips up some home cooking and the Lions have really struggled to win over the years. Um, but yeah,
Really struggled.
it's gonna be electric, Bob. Gonna be electric. But we have to take care of Minnesota first. Gotta take care of business. Win the NFC North, Bob. I may shed real tears when we win the North.
I better see a video of tears
I mean,
because this is Derek 30. Let's just make sure we're getting
never
this.
in
I mean,
our lifetime, Bob.
I know we're harping on this, folks. But as Derek said, never, zero times zero in our lifetime have we seen this happen. Derek, how many playoff wins have we seen in our lifetime? Zero. Zero playoff wins in our lifetime for the Detroit
And I
Lions.
think I've seen
Waking
what
up every Sunday and
and I
watching
think
those games.
I think I've witnessed 3 playoff appearances total. The
Right. Right.
Seahawks, the Saints, and the Cowboys. I think those are the only 3 playoff appearances I've even witnessed in my lifetime.
We've got I believe the third longest playoff drought currently
Correct.
going. One of them, I think, two of the three are actually going to be ended. The two of the three longest are actually going to be ended this year because the Dolphins. Well, it may be the Jets actually, but I think Miami's pretty high up there though too.
I think so.
So I think Miami, theirs is going to end this year, and then assuming that disaster doesn't strike, and the Lions do make the playoffs, that one will end this year as well. I believe the other one being the Broncos in the mix as well. But
Okay.
um, yeah, so needless to say, that's it's worth shedding tears. That is a moment worth
I
shedding
would
tears.
agree. I would agree.
And another moment worth shedding tears over would be a playoff victory.
Also true. Also
I
true.
mean,
I'm looking forward to
that's
it, Bob.
gravy. Get the tissues,
Bob, if the Lions can't beat Nick Mullins to secure, I think
Derek.
there could be tears either way. If the Lions can't defeat Nick Mullins to get their division title, there may be tears, and if the Lions do win, there may be tears. But we
Derek,
can't put that negative energy into the atmosphere, Bob. Can't even think about it.
this can't be another backup quarterback for the Packers moment, can it, Derek? We don't.
Matt
I mean,
Flynn, Bob.
we can't have
Scarsby.
another Matt Flynn. We can't have another Matt Flynn experience there.
Can't have it.
I mean,
Can't have it, won't have it, Bob.
that
Won't
was
have it.
supposed to be the moment, Derek. That was supposed to be the moment for you.
Correct.
It was there. It was there for the taking, and we were screwed. But you know what? Nick Mullins. This is not even first cousins we're talking about here. To quote Shannon Sharp, it's not even first cousins. This is freaking Nick Mullins. I don't want to be seeing. I don't want to be seeing Will Harris blowing coverages.
Bob,
I mean, there's no excuses for this.
CJGJ may be back. CD Deuce, Chauncey Gardner Johnson may be back this week in a limited role. He's been practicing all week.
I need Alex Anzalone with at least one turnover this week.
Need it.
I need the freaking Goldilocks flying downhill. Hutch, Hutch coming.
Need him.
Isaiah Buggs.
Need him.
I mean, he was trying to run a fumble back there. He was trying to run it back.
He was, Bob.
He,
He really was.
but this is potentially your dad. I don't even know if this is exaggeration. I don't even know if this is exaggeration. Given the stakes, this might be a top three biggest game in the Detroit Lions franchise history
Could be.
on Sunday.
Could be.
Given the stakes.
Given the stakes, I'd have to be very close to agreeing.
So, not to be too long winded, but this means a lot to us.
It
And
does mean a lot.
and Dennis, I think he'd understand that if he was here. But golly, please win this Sunday. I don't want to have to put it off any longer,
I
Derek.
don't either, Bob. I don't either. Our destiny is in our hands. I expect Dan Campbell's squad to go out and take it. Switching to the AFC, Bob. Baltimore Ravens at 11-3, a team that handled the Lions pretty handily. Currently is the only team to qualify for the playoffs in the AFC. Behind them, the Miami Dolphins at 10-4, the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-5, the Jaguars at 8-6, the Browns, Bob, the Cleveland Browns at 9-5, the Cincinnati Bengals at 8-6, and the Indianapolis Colts at 8-6. And there are a number of 8-6 teams hot on their heels. The Houston Texans, who face off with the Browns this weekend, as well as the Buffalo Bills, who are scorching hot and get a very weak Chargers team this weekend. Bob, Dennis is not here, unfortunately, as we've said, to talk about the Bengals. But Jake Browning looked very good again last week. They face a very, very, very depleted Steelers team. A team that really can't do anything offensively. A team that lost back to back games to the
Tell
Cardinals
them who the
and
starter is, Derek.
Patriots.
Tell them who the starter is.
Bob, the starter would be none other than Mason Rudolph,
Correct, Derek.
the red-nosed reindeer as we approach Christmas. Bob, Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. I don't know if you remember that game, Bob. Matt Patricia era. The Lions tied with that Steelers team.
I
Terrible,
remember, Derek. I
terrible.
remember.
I can't remember
A
if that
crime, Derek.
was that the Tim Boyle game, Bob? Was that Tim Boyle or David Blau or maybe both of them? Because
It
one
could
of
have
them
been. I mean, the tank commander could have been in, Derek.
could have been in regardless. I mean, I you'd have to consider firing Zach Taylor if he lost this game, and I can say that because Dennis isn't here to defend him. But this is a game you simply cannot lose. For example, I mean, just to put it in perspective, the Bengals' playoff odds currently sit at 42%, which to me is as good as a 50-50. 42% to me is basically a 50-50. If they lose, it drops all the way to 16%. 16% if they lose. And why? Because that would give them the same record as the Pittsburgh Steelers, who would then have the tiebreaker over them as well. Because the Steelers sit at 7-7 currently. If they win, their number goes up to 62%. So a 20% swing, Bob, in either direction, from 42% as it stands, depending on a win or a loss. Bob, how do you see this weekend playing out for Dennis Weaver as his team jumped from the 10th seed all the way to the 6th seed as they hold a number of tiebreakers over other opponents?
You know, Derek, I like to use the phrase renouncing fandom every now and again. This would be a game that if you lost, you'd have to consider that because Mason Rudolph, I mean, there's only one thing I remember Mason Rudolph for in his career, and that's, I mean, it's not tying the Lions, I'll tell you that, Derek. Exactly. We're getting around the same wavelength there. Um, I mean, this is a team that had to bench. Now, Kenny Pickett's not in. Mitchell
Concussed.
Trubisky got benched.
Correct.
And I mean, that legitimately means that they think Mitchell Trubisky was better than Mason Rudolph. That should say all you need to know, given what you saw out of Mitchell Trubisky, who only looked like John Elway against the Detroit Lions. By the way, thank you, Matt Patricia.
Correct.
Um, the AFC landscape is very very interesting. You know, Baltimore just looks like world beaters right now. I wouldn't want to see them. The Miami, I feel the same way. I wouldn't want to see them because I feel like they could just drop 50 on your head in about 3 seconds. Derek, Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
Derek, Joe Flacco. By the way, I'd like to make a note for the presentation that Derek has officially given Joe Flacco more compliments this season than one Jared Goff.
Correct.
Um, he gave a compliment to Joe Flacco saying he throws a nice spiral, which he does throw a nice
Which, I mean,
spiral.
Bob, he might throw one of the best spirals in the history of the game. That thing is
I told
spinning.
you, I give you credit. It's a good spiral, but that's Joe Flacco who came out of retirement,
Correct.
one, and Jared Goff zero. Um, but Joe Flacco, Derek,
Still elite, Bob.
don't sleep on him. Don't
Still
sleep.
elite. Still elite.
Derek. I think Dennis was sound asleep on Joe Flacco, and he's pushing. He's eating dust right now. He's eating Cleveland Brown dust
Correct.
currently.
Correct.
Um, what is going on in Cleveland is truly unbelievable.
I have one of the best
I mean,
defenses in the league, Bob. When you have one of the best defenses in the league, they can keep you
anything's
in any
possible.
game.
And Joe Flacco, you know, I mean, he threw 3 interceptions. God bless him. It was horrendous. I
I
mean,
think he
they were
threw.
bad interceptions.
Did he throw one or multiple pick sixes? I don't remember. I know for a fact he
It
threw
was
one.
bad. It was they were not pretty. Um, but you know what? He also converted 2 or 3 touchdowns, which when you have the elite defense that you do, is going to be enough to get the job done. I that just baffles me every week. Every week I say, surely the Browns are dead this week. There, surely they're dead. There's no way with Joe Flacco at the helm. There's no way.
I
And
mean,
every
Bob,
week I look, and they're pulling out 3-point wins and just nip tuck game and winning.
I mean, first
So
off, gotta give appreciation to Joe Flacco for doing what Jared Goff couldn't do 2 weeks ago, and that's beating the Chicago Bears first and
no doubt.
foremost. So thank you, Joe Flacco, for killing the Bears' playoffs hope. Very much appreciated. Second of all, Bob, it's going to be Joe Flacco versus Case Keenum.
Oh my gosh, Derek.
Joe Flacco
Derek,
versus
what are the quarterback lineups this week? I mean, it's no name bums at about 15 teams this week
correct.
playing.
So I can give them to you just off the top of my head, scrolling through the playoff spots. So we've got Lamar Jackson versus Brock Purdy. That'll be electric. We've got Tua versus Dak Prescott. That'll be electric. Then we start getting into the interesting, parts of the schedule. Patrick Mahomes versus Aiden O'Connell. Bob, Chiefs Raiders.
Oh my gosh.
Trevor Lawrence versus the resurgent Baker Mayfield. Bob.
Shake it, bake, Derek. Shake it, Derek. But it's time to bend the knee, Derek. It's
I
time to
mean,
bend the knee.
Bob, Baker Mayfield dropped a fat 30 bomb for me in my fantasy playoffs last week. Very much appreciated.
Derek, breaking news. Breaking news dropping right now. I don't know if you just saw this. A
I did. I was
notification
gonna.
coming
I was
in.
gonna bring it up. I was gonna bring it up later. I was gonna bring it up
Okay,
later. So
okay,
we're gonna
okay,
hold. We're gonna hold. We're
okay.
gonna get through
Hold,
the NFL first,
hold.
and then we'll hit the breaking news because I don't want to break our flow. Uh,
Right.
Bob, Joe Flacco versus Case Keenum.
Oh my
Massive.
gosh. Oh my lord.
Jake Browning versus Mason Rudolph. Massive.
Oh my gosh.
Gardner Minshew versus Desmond Ritter.
Oh my gosh. Oh my,
Josh Allen versus Easton Stick.
oh my.
Russell
What
Wilson
a what a name.
Russell Wilson versus I don't know if it'll be Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi.
I saw Bailey Zappi.
Okay, despicable. Zach Wilson versus Sam Howell,
Oh my.
and Will Levis versus one of Geno Smith or Drew Lock.
The NFL should be ashamed of itself.
That's the AFC, and then in the NFC, we've got Jalen Hurts versus Tommy DeVito.
Oh my gosh. Not Danny DeVito.
We've got Jared Goff versus Nick Mullins.
No, my lord.
Tonight we had the Rams defeat the Saints, and that was Matt Stafford versus Derek Carr. So finally, two recognizable names.
Right.
Uh, Saints, Rams, Falcons, Colts. Okay, and then we have Jordan Love versus Bryce Young, and we have Justin Fields versus Kyler Murray, and that's it. Because I already
Oh
covered the
boy.
AFC versus NFC games, but yeah, Bob, who thought the AFC playoff picture would come down to literally just a bunch of backups? Quite literally, I think all the teams 4 through 8 have or 5 through 8 have backup quarterbacks. Yeah, because the Texans aren't going to have Stroud this week. So yeah, all teams 5 through 8 have backup quarterbacks. Bob, incredible in the AFC.
I'm sick.
One last question for you, Bob, and then we can move on. Who gets the last 3 wildcard spots in the AFC?
Can you give me some of the teams in the hunt?
Yep, I'll give you the teams 5 through 11 because those are the teams most likely to get in. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Houston, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Denver.
Buffalo, Houston, Cincinnati.
You think Joe Flacco's going to fall off, Bob? They're 9-5 currently with a
They do have
90%
a game on.
chance.
They do have a game on Cincy. I didn't
They're
think about that.
they're 9-5, current
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go
90%.
Browns. We switch that to Browns. I'm switching that to the Browns.
Okay.
I forgot that they had. I forgot that you said that they had a game on Cincy.
Yep. So the Browns, Texans, and Bills, Bob, could be. I mean, here's. I'll say one thing about the Browns and Texans though. They play each other, and if the Texans lose, their playoff odds drop to 32%. The Browns lose, it drops to
Still a
7.
third.
The Browns lose, it drops to 77%. So if Texans beat the Browns, you're in business. You're in business. Can Case Keenum do the impossible? I'm gonna go with the Browns. The Bengals and the Bills. I think the AFC North somehow miraculously is going to get 3 teams in, which is absolutely sick. Uh, but I'm a big fan of Buffalo. Nobody wants to face Buffalo right now, I'll tell you that much. And then lastly, Bob, for the NFC, who picks up the last 2 wildcard spots? We've got the Rams currently at 8-7, the Vikings at 7-7, the Seahawks at 7-7, the Saints at 7-8, and the Falcons at 6-8. I include the Falcons because they could win the NFC South because the Buccaneers are only 7-7.
Seahawks,
Okay.
Rams.
Okay.
I kind of want to say the Falcons, even though
I mean, they could. They'd have to
I
beat
mean
Indianapolis this week.
their division is kind of guard. Oh, they're not going to do that. What are the other teams that I didn't say yet? I
So,
apologize.
Minnesota.
Okay, well,
It's tough because Tampa Bay is 7-7
God,
and leading their division.
I can't see any of these teams. I guess we'll go Minnesota because I think they're better than Atlanta. But
It's a lot of mid in there, Bob. It's a lot of mid in that bottom of the NFC. That is for sure. I'm gonna stick with the Buccaneers, Rams, and Seahawks. I think the
well, I'm
Vikings.
assuming that the Buccaneers are winning their division.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. The Rams and Seahawks. I'll have the Seahawks beating out the Vikings, which would be a disaster for us because for whatever reason, the Seahawks have our number, Bob, and it's disgusting, frankly.
It, it is.
But yeah,
Gino didn't write back.
then right back, Drew Lock taking down the Eagles, Bob. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about briefly. I mean, Matt Patricia, Bob, self-proclaimed greatest call in the history of the NFL when Malcolm Butler made that interception on the goal line in the Super Bowl. Drew Lock has to go more than 90 yards to get a game-winning touchdown in under 3 minutes. And Matt Patricia's Swiss cheese defense that we saw a lot of in Detroit, Bob, saw a lot of it in Detroit, rose up and allowed Drew Lock to put the backpack on, strap it in, and take down the Eagles. Bob, your thoughts on Matt Patricia showing his arse yet again?
Derek, who in the world thought it was a good idea to let this man get back in the defensive coordinator position? Where has he shown you any ability to coach a defense, let alone an offense, which he was coaching somehow for a minute?
Correct.
This man had nothing but. I mean, you saw what Matt Patricia could do with bad defenses, and that was not elevate them in any way.
Correct.
Um, potentially be a detriment. So how I understand the Eagles were, one of the last teams in points allowed to get like average a game. But when I saw that Matt Patricia was taking over, I immediately said to some of my other friends who are Eagles fans, this is not, and I repeat, not the answer to your prayers.
Correct.
Your average will go up. And I think we just saw what I was referring to, a little bit of allusion to that with the Drew Lock busting him up like no other.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly. Could you imagine, Bob? Could you imagine the scenes in Detroit if the Lions took down the Eagles for their first playoff win in 30 years and Matt Patricia was the guy on the defensive sidelines calling the play for the Eagles? Imagine the atmosphere for that type of game. That's
The signs would be out, Derek. The signs would be out.
correct. Correct. Bob, you mentioned the breaking news.
Oh my gosh,
The Los Angeles Dodgers has
Derek.
signed Yoshinobu Yamamoto to a 12-year, $325 million contract.
Oh my gosh, Derek.
In addition to have already signing Shohei Ohtani to a 10-year, $700 million deal and extending Tyler Glasnow after trading for him for $135 million. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto is only 25 years old, had a 1.16 ERA and 171 innings in Japan's league last year.
Derek, Derek, you can't even get a question out because it's just so
I'm distraught.
sickening.
I'm
It's just
distraught.
sickening, Derek.
I mean, the
Derek, where are the
Cubs.
Chicago Cubs? Where are the Chicago Cubs,
I
Derek?
mean, the Cubs
Don't they have any
literally
money?
have. They
Don't they have
literally
any money?
have a Japanese countryman. They have a Japanese countryman in Seiya Suzuki, who played in the Japanese league. He played in the same league as Yamamoto did, and they couldn't bring him in. Couldn't bring him in, and I'm devastated, Bob. Absolutely, positively devastated. But
Derek, I would be too.
here's the
I would be
cope,
too.
Bob. I'm gonna huff on the copium
Oh
for
my
a
gosh,
second. Let
Derek.
me huff
Oh
on the
no, Derek.
copium. The Dodgers have won one World Series title since 1988. And that World Series title was a Mickey Mouse COVID title, same as the LA Lakers. The Los Angeles teams can only win Mickey Mouse COVID titles. That's been established.
Oh no,
So what I'm trying to convince myself is that the
it won't matter.
Dodgers are going to be spending a lot of money over the next 10 years and they will probably only get one championship out of it and that's a worthy sacrifice to make. If the Dodgers get a single championship out of 10 years of Shohei Ohtani and a combination of Yamamoto, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, list goes on and on, Bob. List
Derek,
goes
what
on
is
and
it? Look
on.
at it. Listen to these names that you're coming out of your mouth.
Tyler Glasnow, Max Muncy, James Outman, Bob. It's a tough scene. It's a tough
Walker
scene.
Bueller.
Walker Bueller, Dustin May. Devastating. 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 But it
Derek,
doesn't. They've tried to buy. I mean, Bob, we saw the San Diego Padres buy a super team and not even sniff the World Series, and we saw the New York Mets do the same thing. So that's what I tell myself when I'm huffing on the copium as I cry myself to sleep tonight. Is that money does not always equal championships, but it sure helps improve your chances. So we'll see, Bob. We will see.
Derek, are the Chicago Cubs going to spend a dime here? I mean, what's going on?
They have
I, I
yet
thought the te-
they have yet to
I thought the
spend a
team was going
single
to get better.
dollar. They have yet to spend a single dollar. Now, granted, there was a lot of discussion amongst the MLB sort of circles that pretty much the rest of the free agent market was waiting on this signing right here. And now that Yamamoto's decided where he's going to go, teams are going to start spreading their money around to the rest of the league to make their improvements now that they are no longer able to sign him. So it's a
Derek,
sad day, Bob.
where was the 10-year contract for the Chicago Cubs? I mean, you needed it. The future, Derek.
It was right there, Bob. We could have had, we would have single handedly had the three best Japanese players of all time on one team. Would have had them all, Bob. Would have had a trio of Japanese superstars. But alas, we're a poverty organization that refuses to spend
Oh my
money.
gosh, not a poverty organization. The famed historic Chicago Cubs have
I mean,
even reverted to poverty.
Tom Ricketts refusing to open the pocketbook, it would appear. Here's the thing, Bob. In baseball, you can always match or exceed an offer because there's no salary cap. So, in my humble opinion, Tom Ricketts just decided not to open up the checkbook far enough, and that's a disgrace. It's a disgrace, Bob.
You know, if it makes you feel any better, the Cincinnati Reds haven't done diddly squat either.
Well, I mean, they
And
signed Jamer Candelario.
yeah, don't worry, Derek. Your guys will probably sign Matt Chapman to a deal or
I
something
hope
like
not,
that.
Bob. I hope not. That dude is washed. He's washed.
well, well, that's correct, Derek. But the Chicago Cubs will probably think it's a big enough name that they could still get the fans out to the park for a
Correct.
bargain for a basement bargain level deal.
I suppose.
So
I suppose that's true.
and I couldn't tell you who's playing third base for the Chicago Cubs, so that means that Matt Chapman should slot in nicely. So, uh, but Derek, the farm
The
system.
farm is hot. The farm is
I
hot,
mean,
Bob. The farm is
Derek,
ready.
is the Chicago Cubs saying we're standing pat? The future is now
I
for the
mean,
Chicago Cubs.
I hope not, because the farm isn't that good. You don't have any Shohei Otanis walking through the farm, as far as I'm aware of. But there's promise. There's promise, but they're if they truly want to be competitive in the NL Central this year, they're gonna have to make some big moves, and they're gonna have to make them quick.
St. Louis making some moves, Derek. St. Louis has been making moves. What do we? I mean, Derek, does that scare you even a little bit?
No, I wouldn't. The only move that was even remotely eyebrow raising was signing Sonny Gray. That was it.
Derek, any eyebrow raising? I can tell you my thoughts about this, but any eyebrow raising with the Tiger signing Jack Flaherty?
Uh, if you mean eyebrow raising as in holy crap, what an overpay? Yes, yes. Uh,
Michael Waka, Derek, we could have had him.
I mean, literally $2 million a year more for 2 years for a guy that's proven capable of being an effective starting pitcher. When was the last time Jack Flaherty didn't look like trash giving up swamp donkeys left and right?
That would be absolutely correct. Nothing like a over 5 ERA Jack Flaherty become stabilized. I mean, that's Derek. That's you know what this reminds me of. This is a glorified Jose Urania that we're signing here. That's basically what I'm getting out of freaking Jack Flaherty.
I
Innings
remember
eater,
when the Tigers signed Jose Urania. Disaster.
Derek. What we should have been done is we should have done called the Chicago Cubs who haven't done diddly squat, and we should have said we'll give you something and a player to be named later and some cash for Javier Assad, and then convert him into a starting pitcher. Is what we should have done because anytime that man touched the mound, it was 7 innings of freaking scoreless ball.
I mean, he was electric, Bob. Electric.
I mean, what are we doing, Jack Flaherty? Oh my gosh,
I, I saw
we're going to be more poverty than the Cubs.
I saw a report, Bob, that said from Scott Harris something along the lines of Jack Flaherty is betting on himself. Oh, yep, here it is. Tigers president of baseball operations Scott Harris says Jack Flaherty is betting on himself.
Oh my gosh. Well, why are we betting on him? That's what I want to know. I don't give a shit about the betting
Correct.
on self part, Derek.
Correct.
Why are we betting on him?
I
And
mean, Bob,
also,
we're paying.
by the way, Derek, why are we acting like the Detroit Tigers didn't have the money to sign this guy? This guy, this guy could have been a Detroit Tiger.
Could have been the future.
What are we doing? The
Could have been.
future.
Could have been a cornerstone
We got
of the future.
we got a young rotation. He would have fit. He'd have fit right in, Derek. Would have fit right in.
Bob, listen to this. Listen to this. Jack Flaherty had a $5.4 million salary last year, and we tripled it.
No, for no reason.
Tripled it.
We tripled it because we had to pay the Detroit Tigers, the come play in Detroit tripling is what we
Correct.
had to do.
Correct. I
Guarantee
mean,
it. No other team. I mean, Jack Flaherty. Guarantee how this went is. Oh, the agent went to Scott Harris. A lot of interest in Jack Flaherty. A lot of interest. Oh my God! You'll come play in Detroit. We're gonna have to triple. We are gonna have to bet against ourselves and triple your contract when nobody else is offered a 1 year freaking $3 million probably to come resurrect his career as like a seventh starter.
Bob, Kenta Maeda is only getting $12 million a year.
And, and he's borderline washed.
Correct.
That the problem with Kenta Maeda is he's just like 1 year away from full wash status.
Bob, but what about Andrew
So
Chafin coming back $4.75 million on a 1 year
I,
deal?
that's a good deal.
I
That is, I
agree.
mean, that's what I'm talking about. That's the, I mean, that's a guy who likes being in Detroit at least.
Correct.
Ken
Correct.
Maeda likes being in Detroit too, because he's freaking got a 1 ERA against lifetime career in Comerica Park
Correct. Correct.
against the garbage behind Detroit Tigers pitiful lineup. Derek, I just saw an interesting suggestion today that what if the Detroit Tigers fans rallied around Javi Baez like Trey Turner
Saw that as well.
got
Embarrassing.
Derek, thoughts on that? Is Javi Baez going to flip the switch
I
if the Detroit family rallies around them?
my gut reaction, only reaction, embarrassing to yeah, just embarrassing. It was embarrassing. Embarrassing. Embarrassing.
I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Just clowning ourselves, Bob. Clowning ourselves is what we were doing.
I mean, we got rid of Derek. We quite literally got rid of Miguel Cabrera. Thank you, Miguel. But we got rid of him. Got rid of his massive contract. And what did we do? What did we do with the money, Derek? We go and sign Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty, five ERA, Derek, over 5 ERA, betting on himself, Derek. What are we doing? Guy couldn't get a freaking job in AAA if he wanted it, and we're giving him $13 million a year. And Kenta Maeda, who I could understand at least why there's an illusion that he might be a good pitcher, because he probably had a lifetime freaking, like I said, sub 1 ERA at Comerica Park,
Probably.
and had a couple good seasons. But like I said, we're talking like this close, Derek, this close to wash status, and a guy that can't. I don't even think the heater touches 90 miles an hour, Derek. The heater doesn't even touch 90.
Effective movement, Bob. Effective movement.
Derek, that's quite literally all the Miguel Cabrera money right there spent.
That and Mark Canna's $11 million option after trading for him. That's pretty close to 50 mil.
Derek, I mean, oh my gosh.
Next topic, Bob. A topic that is that unfortunately I was going to try and do a topic that would provide a little more hope and joy, but the Detroit Pistons, Bob. 25th straight loss. Chance of sell the team reverberating inside Little Caesars Arena. 3 games away from breaking the record, or from tying the record for longest ever losing streak, and 4 games away from owning it for themselves, a few games away from holding the single season longest losing streak. And they could not be a Utah Jazz team that had a vicissitude of injuries, Bob. Lauri Markkanen,
A myriad,
myriad, plethora, multitude, whatever word you want to describe.
innumerable.
Correct. To describe the number of players that were out for the Jazz tonight, headlined by Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. 2.5 point favorites at home, and they lost by 8, Bob. James Wiseman, minus 16. Ausar Thompson, minus 18. The bench outscored by 9 points, and every single bench player with a minus 7 or worse. Back-to-back games with the Nets coming up, Bob. Will they break the streak? It's tough. It's hard to win. It's hard to beat the same team twice back-to-back, Bob. That much we know.
Derek, I'm not sure there's fight left in this team right now. I mean, I'd like to think that there is. I mean, I like to think that there is, but it's just gotten. I mean, this is just a shame to be associated with, is what it is. I mean, we're talking about a team well under 500 in the Utah Jazz. Well under 500. This is a game at Little Caesars Arena. This was a home game.
Correct.
Um, Arguably the two best players for the Jazz tonight, not on the court. To add insult to injury, plus THT if you count him too. And it's one thing. Okay, Colin Sexton, God bless him, has had a good career so far. He gets us. He gets us for 30 points. No biggie.
Correct.
I can understand it. I'm not a fan of it, Derek, but it computes. And I look at the box score, Derek. I look at the box score, and I lost my lunch, Derek. I lost my lunch. Kelly Olynyk,
Pistons legend, Bob.
27 points. And the Utah Jazz have done it. Cade Cunningham, the star, the famed member of the Detroit Pistons, was only able to muster a measly one more point than Kelly Olynyk tonight. It's an embarrassment. I mentioned this many times on this pod already. I won't beat a dead horse. But at what point, as I posed this question to Derek before the pod, at what point is this just unfathomable? At what point is this just the league has to do something? That's what I'm trying. I mean,
The league
I don't
has
even know
rigged
if this
things
is.
before, Bob. Let's not forget Tim Donaghy.
Let's not forget it,
We
Derek.
we may
I
need
mean,
we may
this
need a
is this is a team that hired the best coach that was on the
allegedly,
market,
supposedly.
supposedly. I mean, probably the league consensus best coach that was available. And to quote Stephen A. Smith, they just can't seem to do anything right. And I mean, it's a joke. I mean, it's getting to the point where I see you guys every week. I see some other people every Thursday night. I have a chess club that I attend before the podcast, and I have a friend in the club who's a very big NBA fan. And every week I have to show up. And I have to say, and I have to face the music. I have to face the music, Derek, because the Detroit Pistons have won 2 games, and they still have won 2 games, and it's been another week that I
Correct.
have to see this man.
Correct.
Derek, please take it away. I can't take it anymore,
I
Derek.
mean, it's been.
I'm in pain. I'm in pain, Derek.
I mean, Bob. I would say that perhaps Tom Gores could issue a well-placed bribe to the officials
Oh
to win a game.
my gosh, Derek. That would
But
require him showing up.
Tom Gores appears to open his checkbook for the wrong people. And you asked me when is enough enough and the league needs to step in, Bob. I think the answer is that the league needs to rig the lottery for the Detroit Pistons.
Oh my gosh.
And the worst part is this is one of the worst drafts that I can remember in a very long time. In a very long time. There's no Victor Wembanyama's walking through those doors. There's no Cade Cunningham's
Of course.
walking through those doors. There's no Zion Williamson's Anthony Edwards, Carl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, LeBron James. There isn't a player like that walking into the league next year. And so we're cooked. We are certifiably, categorically,
Cooked.
positively, absolutely cooked. And Bob, unfortunately, I feel like I have answers to a lot of things. Sometimes they're the wrong answers, sometimes they're the right answers. I have no answer for how to fix the Pistons. I don't know if it's roster construction. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's effort. I don't know if it's talent. I don't know if it's fundamentals or the lack thereof. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's game plan, personnel. Is it Monty Williams' fault? Is it Troy Weaver's fault? Is it Tom Gore's fault? Bob, I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that what's currently being the product on the floor has not worked for 25 straight games. Hasn't worked. And it doesn't help that there's been a number of injuries to some key veterans along the way. But at some point, Bob, you've got to man up and say, no mas.
That's right. It's your pride on the line, Derek.
Correct. And we'll see. We'll see in the coming days how much pride is left in this Pistons team because
Surely, there's got to be a rallying cry of the record will not be ours. Surely,
you would hope.
we will not go down in history.
You would hope, Bob, you would hope, but we'll see. I my prediction is that the Pistons will either snap the streak before the record or they're going to extend the record by at least another 5 games. That's what I think is going to happen. Is they've either given up and are accepting the record and they'll just continue playing the way they are until they happen to catch a lucky break against a team having a bad night. Or they'll sack up and they'll get the job done in order to avoid embarrassing the city for the second of the 4 major sports in terms of longest losing streaks ever. The
Derek,
Lions already have one, and the Pistons are coming close. I mean, Bob, how many cities in America can say they would hold 2 of the 4 longest all-time losing streaks in professional sports history?
I wouldn't say there'd probably be too many considering we would have half of them.
Correct. Correct, Bob.
I mean, Derek, this team is going to be in Las Vegas
I don't
before
think
we know
so.
it.
I don't think so. I don't see the Detroit Pistons relocating anytime soon. I don't really see relocation as a solution of the future, but team sellage and mass firings that I could get
Could be.
behind. Could be. Bob, I think that about wraps it up. We're hitting the 1 hour mark. Because Dennis isn't here naturally, we won't do a new Garbage Time Takes Your Money segment. Do I have one from last week is the question.
I do have a loser for this week if I can share that in the meantime, Derek.
Sure, go ahead. We did not have a recent Garbage Time Takes Your Money, so we'll leave that as is. Who's your loser of the week, Bob?
Well, I mentioned it a little bit to you before the pod, but I'm going to go with the University of Detroit Titans, who are currently sitting at 0-12 in the NCAA basketball season this year, and dropped a tight game tonight to the Central Michigan University Chippewas, who were not, I repeat, not going to be the first to fold on that list. Um, after losing what was the second leading scorer in NCAA history last season, the offense seems to have completely crumbled for the University of Detroit Titans. They're in complete shambles and loser of the week.
You know who my loser of the week is? Now that I've thought about it, the University of Michigan basketball program.
No, no.
Bob, the University of Michigan basketball program over the last few years has been in 17 games in which the outcome was decided in overtime or by fewer than 6 points. Would you like to take a guess as to what their record in those games are? Against
2-15.
against high major opponents. Correct. It is 2-15. Perhaps you saw that stat already. If not, that's a heck of a guess. Against high major opponents over the last few years, 2-15 against high major opponents in close games. And they dropped another one to Florida this week, nearly ruined my night. Juwan Howard, thankful for what he's done in for the university in the past. Thankful for his
Oh no, I know. I know where this is going.
very limited contributions to the Michigan program, but I think the time of him running the program into the ground has run its course. Not that Michigan is traditionally some storied, historic blue blood program. No, no. But they were respectable. And
Derek, they had John Beeline. They
and
had John Beeline, Derek.
John Beeline made the opponents bring their best week in and week out, and he made you fear and respect Michigan basketball and what the name meant. And Juwan Howard has dumped all over it and made a mockery of the program. And it's tough to watch. They send guys to the NBA, they have All Americans, and yet have very little to show for it. And I'm tired, Bob. I once, probably many times jokingly said I would sacrifice the Michigan basketball program success for Michigan football program success. I was not expecting that to be taken seriously and for literal word, to be clear. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Um, but yeah, I'm just tired of losing. Tired of losing close games. Tired of losing competitive games. Tired of looking inexplicably inept in late game situations the way Michigan has looked over the past few years. And there's a lot of people who worry about firing Jawan because of the impacts it could have on the recruiting classes. You're gonna have to reset it at some point, and if a guy is committed to the coach and not the program, I find that to be problematic anyway. I understand wanting to play for the coach that recruited you there, but surely you would want what the program as a whole means to be more important. Now, granted, if they were to sign, you know, whoever the current coach at Central Michigan is to be the head coach of Michigan basketball, would not in any way, shape, or form fault someone for decommitting from a coach like that. But if you were able to bring in a rising name, Dusty May is one I think of at Florida Atlantic. Maybe you can hire Tommy Lloyd away from my own Arizona Wildcats because that dude rocks. Um,
Derek, I think you pick up the phone and you know who you got to give a call to.
who do you got to give a call to, Bob?
The man who got you there in the first place, Derek.
Bob, I don't know if John Beeline cares for the NIL era. He was a guy that wouldn't even give you an offer until you stepped foot on campus.
Derek, you got to give him a call.
I think what John Beeline needs to do is be in a Mark D'Antonio role,
Oh, the Mark D'Antonio role, Derek.
active in the program, active in coaching, active as an assistant, as an analyst in tape, in film, in scouting. I don't care what it is. But John Beeline had an attention to detail most coaches would kill to have when it comes to film preparation. And Juwan Howard's teams routinely lack preparation, discipline, and culture, and accountability. So I think John Beeline's probably past the point where he could effectively navigate the NIL era of college basketball recruiting, but I think he'd be darn good in a staffing role that would allow him to continue to help the Michigan program. So, long-winded loser of the week, but I had to get it off my chest because it has been absolutely miserable to watch Michigan basketball.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I feel for you. Um,
But U
I
of
just hope
A,
that Juwan.
baby.
I just hope that Juwan Howard goes out by throwing the second punch of his tenure.
So do I. I think he should let Tom Izzo have it. Is how I think he should go down. Either go down
Just like he started his career, Derek. Just like he started his career.
go down swinging on Tom Izzo, Brad Underwood, Greg Gard,
I think he only gets one opportunity.
or Matt Painter. One of those four, go down swinging on one of those four and complete the circle.
Wow.
And then winner of the week, us next week when the Lions are NFC North champions.
Correct. Yep. We're leaving it at that.
Leave it at that. Bob, hit him with the socials. Let's wrap it up.
At Garbage Time Takes on Instagram, at Garbage Time Takes on X. You find our link to our website in the description of this video below. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave some good vibes down in the comment section below for us lowly Detroit Lions fans, but not so lowly anymore. Psych, call an ambulance, but not for me. Let's go.
Love it, Bob. Couldn't have said it better myself. As always, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for when you see the next podcast upload. And until next time, don't know when it'll be. Holiday season could throw things off a little bit. We'll see if we can get a little something here or there. As always, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all the love and support. Hopefully, we'll have Dennis join us next time too as a special guest. Uh, and yeah, that'll do it. See you next episode in 3.
One,
Peace.
peace.